Namaskaram. Welcome to today's reading of Agastya, Purpose of Life. Today's topic is Brahman. Sister Sumati?
Yeah. Oh, wait. Yeah. Who is Brahman? Gajarat Swamigal is asking, who is Brahman? How does one attain the state of Brahman? So Sage Agastya says, it is a big question you have asked today. This day that you have posed the question is a special day. This question you have asked today is the highest peak on the mountain of knowledge. This type of question is posed by one who is known as a pure Brahmin. This profound knowledge was given secretly by those who were known as Brahmins because of their purified state to those selected disciples who possessed good character that came seeking knowledge.
So, here, one of the most important things that we can understand is Appa says this kind of questions, which is a question which is very profound, was asked by Brahmins. But then he goes on to explain a Brahmin. He says, these were people known as Brahmins because of their purified state. So now, he is not talking about the current idea of the caste system that we have in India, which is Brahmin and other castes like Kshatriya and all this. What he's talking about is a Brahmin is one who is not a Brahmin because of the virtue of one's birth in a particular caste. He's talking about Brahmin because of the way he thinks and he lives and he acts. One who is purified can only be called a Brahmin. So we must understand that a lot of what Manu gave us or Manu Shastra gave us has been completely misunderstood and misrepresented to show caste system based on birth, and this is incorrect. These references to how a person is based on their behavior and their thought process, and that is what Agastya is saying here.
Yeah. So to continue, this type of knowledge was imparted in the ashrams or hutments in the forests outside human habitats. That is why one of the Upanishads, that is an aspect of the Vedas, the Aranya Upanishad, is also called Aranya Brahmana. The meaning of Aranyam is forest. This sermon was given in the peaceful environment of the forest where people meditated. I will now tell you the meaning of Brahman. In Kali Yuga, forest or nature are not found easily. In such a situation, I will consider the place that I am as forest, and changing your heart into a beautiful and natural state of purity, I will impart this knowledge to you.
Now, another important thing to remember is the way he's talking about this sage Agastya, he's saying this was always imparted in a place where there was natural beauty and the person was completely pure. So it is such a profound topic that only in a very purified state could one receive it and in peaceful surroundings. It is that profound. But he also says, I will consider the place that I am as forest. Now, that is a clue or an indication to us that we should not always look for the outside environment to decide how we feel or how we regard ourselves as. We can consider any place holy through our mind, our thoughts, and that is what he's trying to tell us. So, devotion need not be confined just to the prayer room. It is within around us because it is within us. So, we as human beings can create that environment in our thought process, which will help in spiritual living. Go ahead, sister.
Yeah. Nobody can imagine what Brahman is because that which is called Brahman has no form. That is why it is called formless or unfathomable. The supreme being or Brahman or the absolute is that which is beyond time and space. This is not something that can be understood by human intelligence. It is like the wind, which in itself has no form. Yet, because of the wind, we see the movement in the trees, the plants, the hair, and the clothes. Because we see this, we understand that it is wind that causes everything to move. In the same way, we understand that there is a supreme power based on what we see of the creation and based on his play in creation. That is how we know the Supreme One or the Brahman. That is how we can imagine him and believe in him. Those who are not believers know that only they exist. They are not able to understand Brahman who is above them. Time is also Brahman. The universe is also Brahman. Time is normally separated into three: the past, present, and the future. The past is an event that has already happened in nature and in the mind. That which has already occurred, that which we can no longer get, keeping that events that have already occurred as a measure, we consider the present. Imagining what might have happened in diverse ways and that we have not yet achieved or experienced, we then call it the future.
Now, at this juncture, before we go forward to understanding what time is, uh, Sage Agastya says he has given us such a beautiful and very simple way of understanding Brahman. It can't get any more simpler than this. So we can sit here and think, okay, Brahman is something which is beyond time and space. But with a limited human mind, we are unable to understand the concept of space, which is so vast. Because if you have watched, as always talk about NASA videos, you'll see that space just seems to keep expanding and it keeps growing, and you cannot see the end of it. NASA has not been able to go to the end of space. There is no end. In the same way, he says Brahman is beyond space. So, what is this great power that is even beyond space? That which is like a wind. We know that because of the wind, everything moves. But what is because of Brahman that we cannot see, which is formless, we exist. Everything in creation exists. So he says, only because of the fact that there is creation and creation is going on, we know that there is something that created this. That everything exists because of that one thing. And what is that one thing? That is beyond human explanation. But he has given us a very simple way of understanding it. And that is to know that you cannot see the wind, but you can feel it. And you know that it exists because it is making things move. Brahman is making the things live. All this thing that is happening wouldn't happen without Brahman. It is like that energy, that cosmic energy itself is Brahman, which is prevalent all over creation. Then he also says people who don't know him know that they exist, but they do not question how do they exist? How did this earth come to be? How did this universe come to be? But there will come a time, even for atheists, and there's not wrong to be atheist, but even those people who do not believe in God or creation and all these things, there'll come a time in one of their future lives when that question will start forming in their mind. Because ultimately, whether we know it or not, the moment the soul comes out and starts expressing itself as in creation, it also has that magnetic desire to go back to God, to Brahman, which is its true concept. Now we'll continue to see what Agastya talks about in terms of time. and we will discuss that.
Yeah, I like the word magnetic desire. The soul has the magnetic desire to
Return.
go
That
back.
is, yes.
Yeah,
And that is one
nice.
of the reasons why you will see, no matter how rich a person is, no matter how famous they are, there is never complete satisfaction. That complete satisfaction comes to somebody who is a realized master. That is why you see, you would think, okay, look at all of us. We are all in a very, normal, modest living style. So you think, okay, if I get this car, I'll feel happy. If I get that thing, feel happy. If this happens, I'll be happy. There's never a end to that. And then what happens to people who have already got all that? They're still unhappy. Why do we see great people committing murder, murder or even suicide, both? Why do we see that? Why do we see Marilyn Monroe or any of the film actors or others, committing suicide? What is it that they lacked? I mean, to us, we see, oh, they had everything they needed. So we know that material things do not satisfy our needs. Even human relationships at the end do not satisfy our needs, because the need of the soul is pure bliss, the state of pure bliss, which is Brahman. Because Brahman, when you go through spiritual practice, there comes a time when joy starts welling up from within you for no reason, absolutely no reason. And at that state, and it will happen, it doesn't matter whether you're sitting in meditation or not, that will happen. It will be like a fountain. And when that state continuously starts happening within you, then you realize that is the way the soul is. It is just pure bliss. That Atman is nothing but pure bliss. It is we as humans and the mind and the senses that complicate everything and make life so miserable. And even beyond that, bliss is a state of complete peace where you are completely still within and without. You can see everything that is happening, you're aware of everything that is happening, but you become completely still. You continue to live in this world and you're still inside, because you've reached a stage of liberation. So that is what Appa Agastya said, when we were talking about it last week. One becomes liberated while living. In such a stage, you do not need or want anything. You're beginning to understand, you're already understood what the whole concept of creation and why creation, everything. At that state, you're just being, you're just to be. You're just there. Everything happens and nothing affects you. You continue to maintain that inner peace. And that is what we will understand how to get there by reading Valipadu, because Valipadu gives you all the knowledge that you need to set a firm foundation as you walk on the spiritual path. Go ahead, sister.
Yeah. So what is happening now, we consider as the present. If we look at it closely, what is present is actually an illusion. This is because that which you are experiencing is that which has already happened. It is something that cannot be constrained in time, because what is happening now is already the past by the time you realize it.
Beautiful. Now look at this.
Yeah.
How have you ever thought of time? We think of time as past, present, future, and it's very interesting because we have accepted that. But Appa Agastya is saying time is also an illusion. Think about it. The moment I think it is now, it's already the past. The moment you're saying something, it's already what you already said the few minutes before is already the past. So how do you know what time is? Because time is a man-made idea. We have based it on the darkness and the light and the sun and the moon. But he says the past, present, and future is an illusion. So a jnani, the one who is liberated while living, knows that there is no linear fashion for the time. So the time, whether it is the we are talking about hundreds of years ago, or the future of that's hundreds of years later, it is all now, or it's it's there. It's simply there. We just call it the past and present. So how do we explain when somebody says, "Oh, I went back into my past life and I saw this"? It is true. They've seen something. They've gone back to their past life. But how is it possible? Because time is just a human concept. Everything that has happened, is happening, is going to happen, is already there. Go ahead.
Yeah. To understand the passage of time, man has invented the clock. This is something that was invented based on the level of his understanding. People of today know only to measure time as seconds, time, days, months, or years. People of the current times are unable to even imagine what it is. What is it that occurs before seconds, or what is the passage of time after the years? The wise ones of my times understood the rules of the cosmic law and were able to explain the concept of time that is measured in four cyclic divine years, yugas. According to this, these four time spans continue to come one beyond the other like a wheel. A wheel has no beginning or end, no start or end. That which has no beginning or end does not have rules of past, present, or future. That state is called the state of the void, that which cannot be seen, that which can be understood but not made to be understood, that which can be experienced but cannot be explained to others. That is what we call the supreme being or the absolute.
Now, this is again so beautiful. I mean, this particular chapter has to be read and reread to understand the different layers. Yeah, even I haven't really understood the complete depth of this thing, but I'm hoping that there will be a great guru one day who will talk about all this and explain this much better to us. But of course, giving the whole idea of creation, the concept of, you know, how we exist, how everything exists in this. He's saying what we call the yugas is continuous. It's a cycle. So it's like a 48,000 year cycle that goes on and on and on. And, Mahapralaya does happen at the end of each cycle of the four yugas. It is a known fact according to our Vedas. And then he says, when creation is a continuous process, there is no beginning, there's no end, there's no past, there's no future, which means it is, it just is. So how do we understand that? I always go back to the beautiful picturization of symbolical picturization of Ananta Shayana, where Vishnu is sleeping. So if we think of Vishnu as creation or the absolute, then the creative principle, the earth, it's out coming out of his navel, which means it is an unconscious act. That is why they call it the desireless desire. Creation is happens, but it is not something that is built. How is it possible for to understand all this? It is not, because he says this is something that can never be understood, can be understood, but never explained in human language, because human language or the human capacity of the mind at a stage where it is not yet liberated is unable to, wrap its mind around it. So that is why only the liberated, like Ramana Maharishi and those great gurus, are the only ones who are able to understand it. But even they, even the greatest of the greatest Rishi, cannot put it in human language. It can only be understood.
Very profound, very, very profound. So, yeah, to continue, what must one do to attain this state of the absolute? What path must one follow? What must one follow? I will now tell you in a short summary all this to the extent necessary for Kali Yuga. Different sages have given different paths based on their own knowledge and experience to people to attain the absolute. The most important paths have been that have been given are Bhakti Marga, path of devotion, Karma Yoga, path of service, Laya Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. In the Dwapara Yuga, Kanna, that is Krishna, a great yogi and jnani, who was the personification of Vishnu, taught Karma Yoga to the people of those days through Bhagavad Gita, to the children of the ruling class and people in layers. After that, Mahayogi Patanjali gave the Raja Yoga. Only few are able to understand Jnana Yoga. The one who can gain wisdom must be born in a good family, one who is born in a devotional family, owing to good deeds he has done in his previous life. Jnana Yoga is the highest among all the yogas.
Beautiful. So Appa saying there is no one method to understand or attain the, see, he's saying attain the state of the absolute. So that particular sentence itself talks about it. He's saying, when we talk about merging into the absolute, he's saying attain the state of the absolute. That is the correct description of what must happen to each soul as we go forward on the spiritual path. Many say, oh, on the moksha, we should get moksha and we should go. No, where are you going? You're not going anywhere. You're only realizing it. You're attaining the state of the absolute. You're exactly where you are. Like Ramana Maharshi is the best example for that. He was on earth, he was in the body, but he attained the state of the absolute. He was a Jivan Mukta. He was liberated while living. So the absolute, what is the absolute state of the absolute? From my limited experience and what I've actually experienced while meditation, it is pure bliss, unconditioned love, and at one point, complete stillness within and out. And I have not been able to remain in that state. It only happened very briefly in my life, and I think that was given so that I would understand what he's going to talk about. But I haven't attained that state, but I know that state exists. I can tell you by experience that state exists when nothing that is happening around you, within you, matters anymore. Because all you feel is that the joy welling up, the joy just welling up like a fountain from deep within you. It is indescribable. It is the ultimate in bliss. It's not even happiness; it's bliss. It's profound. It's divine bliss. So we must understand. Even if one sentence that Sage Agastya has given, there is volumes that can be written. So what must one do to attain the state of the absolute? We cannot become the absolute, but we can attain the state of the absolute. He says there are different paths, and we already know there's the path of devotion, the Karma Yoga, Laya Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga. But he says again, Jnana Yoga is the highest among all yogas. Now, why is Appa saying that? We know that there have been a lot of other yogis who have followed different yoga paths. And right now, Raja Yoga is one that has become very, very popular in the current Kali Yuga. However, Jnana Yoga is the highest because once you understand why creation, what is absolute, why me, what is my role here, there is a stage where you can go attain the state of the absolute. I am telling you, based on what Sage Agastya said, without the need for meditation, without the need for going to pilgrimages, without the need for rituals, because a gnani, it's like a switch. When a human being becomes a gnani, that foundation is being laid to the very pages of Agastya Valipada. When you begin to start understand all this, so many things start falling away from you. All your bad habits, your character starts changing. You begin to understand why things are happening. And when you start understanding why this suffering, then you understand the concept of karma, which is explained beautifully in one of the chapters. So what is happening is, when you understand why karma, why the suffering caused by karma, then you know, or you have the key to stop future suffering. Because instead of running to astrologers or others and trying to do pujas, to do pariharams and get rid of all the suffering and pain that is caused by your own karma, you begin to understand, okay, if I don't want any future karma, let me undergo this debt, karmic debt. Let me finish that with the right attitude, that I am suffering for what I did in one of my few, past actions, whether in this life or before. And then you start creating good actions every day because you know that you want to be pain free without suffering. Then what happens? Naturally, you start walking on the path of righteousness. But we must remember, we are humans. We are humans because we are still living here. We still don't know. We are not yet liberated as Ramakrishna Paramahamsa or Ramana Maharishi. So we will make mistakes. Even as we are attempting to do all this, even as we are understanding all this, mistakes will continue to happen, but we cannot let that stop us. Because what happens is, as we are learning, as we are making the mistakes, we begin to understand, oh, that's a mistake I'm making. We begin to accept what we are doing. If anybody has known me before, I was horrible in many, many ways. But what has changed me to this extent is this foundation that Appa has been laying through Agastya Vadipada. So that not the path of the Gnani is the highest, and it's not for everybody. It doesn't mean that everybody who reads Agastya Vadipada has to become a Gnani. Because what he has given us is everything that is contained in the Vedas and Upanishads in a very simple form for Kali Yuga. We can read and understand all this. If we already have other gurus, we can follow their teachings. But this gives us additional knowledge. It gives us more understanding, and we can continue to do what we're doing, and go on the path that is more suitable to us. Because not everybody can be a gnani, not everybody can walk that great path, but we can all walk the spiritual path. We can all walk on the righteous path, and this is the foundation for those people too. So Vadipada is not just for people who want to walk on the path of, as shown by Agastya, to become gnanis. It is a path shown by Agastya to become dharmic, which is righteous, and to lay a foundation of knowledge, a firm foundation of knowledge, which will help you in your own path. Now, we also see, many times how great people who are great healers, who have millions of devotees all around the world, or, they give profound truth to the world through their discourses. They have certain flaws, and then they fall right down. They're arrested. Does that mean that they're charlatans? No. They also have gained wisdom, which they're trying to give people, succeeding in doing that, but there are flaws in the basic character, which will always bring them down. So this again is addressed beautifully in another chapter in Agastya Paripada. So that is why it becomes so important to lay a firm foundation of righteous life, which Vadipada will help us to, because we'll understand why what is happening. So, any other thoughts from anybody here?
It was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I read this over and over again, and I am still understanding it, and I'm still, just blown away by this beautiful, beautiful discourses he's given.
Yeah, true, true. It's so small a chapter, but so profound. And it's something which each of us want to attain. And what you said and what is given by Appa is also correct. So it is not about attaining something; it is just attaining the state of the absolute. So
Right.
I think that makes a remarkable difference in the way we think. So wherever we are, and as you have said, Ramana Maharshi also was in a cave when he attained this. Actually, he was a small boy when he realized it. So yeah, we don't have to go anywhere, go on pilgrimages, go on, you know, looking for pariharams and all that.
And if you think about it, think about all the people who have attained this, Shirdi Sai Baba, Ramana Maharishi, or many of the people that we don't even know but are great jnanis who are living in this world, who look like beggars, somewhere. There are people like that, lots of people. That's what he says in Valipadu later too. They are all attained. They haven't gone and proclaimed themselves. They haven't gone and they don't show that they have attained it. And that is the future of the yogis of today in Kali Yuga. There's going to be a lot of masters who will, touch few lives, but they'll never become famous, and it doesn't matter because each one has a responsibility or duty in this world. And each one of us who read Agastya Vadipadu have a duty too, because it is so simple. Think about it. You don't have to do a great penance. You don't have to stand on one leg. You can watch what you're doing each day, how you act, how you react. And every time you fall, you can pick yourself up and try to change each day. Because one thing is for sure, when one starts walking on the path of righteousness, liberation is, all of us are actually, at the moment we are born, we are all already walking back to the source to attain the state of absolute, whether we know it or not. But those who are walking on the path of righteousness have already removed a lot of obstacles on the spiritual path. And for them, the end is much more nearer. And how easy is it to do that? We can do that. We don't have to learn anything new to do that, to be good. And that is something that Agastya always says in every other discourse in Agastya Velipadu. Good. Because being good is the foundation of divinity. We will understand at a time that we are all part of that absolute. And we will become gain the state of that absolute. And that is why righteousness and dharma will lead us to that state of absolute. So that is why we must change. Or we can continue doing all that we're doing. We can, choose to ignore this, but what will happen? We'll keep coming back until the day when we will be forced by pain to start questioning, why are we here? Why am I here? Why am I suffering? And then such of us who do that start the progress or the journey towards the end of attaining the state of the absolute. Brother Suren, Sister Veena, any thoughts? So it's almost.
No, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Brother Suren. I have to say that Brother Suren communicates with me, and I've known him for more than a year, and his thinking has changed so much as he's reading Valipadu, and the questions he asks, his understanding of life, that itself shows how much he has understood what Appa's teaching. Thank you, Brother Suren. And Sister Sumati and Sister Veena, thank you very much. We will meet again next week for the topic, why creation? And right now, may I request either Suren or Sister Sumati to share the speech for us?
Suren, brother?
You can go ahead, ma'am.
Om Agastishwaraya Maha